Some news stories for you. Firstly, Somalia, where Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, the newly elected president, has departed for Turkey. Secondly, passports of two activists have been cancelled by Somalia's immigration department, and we are seeing a social media campaign for and against the two activists. What happened? Second news story is from Sudan, Ethiopia border, where there were heavy clashes a few days ago, and reportedly a convoy of UN peacekeepers was stopped by Sudanese military. The convoy wanted to enter Ethiopia, but it was not allowed to enter Ethiopia from Sudan. A third news story is from London, where Ethiopian diaspora community, especially Amhara diaspora community, has held a demonstration, and PM Abiy now seems to be the main target of these demonstrations. Abiy the killer, Abiy the genocider, were the slogans there. Fourthly, Oromo Liberation Front, a political party led by Dawood Ibsa, has released a statement about new operation launched against Oromo Liberation Army. Last week in Bahidar, Oromia and Amhara regional presidents held a meeting. The meeting was held after Vallaga massacre, and in that meeting joint offensive was planned, and since then regional forces, Ethiopian National Defense Force have been mobilized into Oromia. In this background, OLF has released a statement, and Jawar also spoke about deployment of regional forces, Amhara regional forces, Amhara militias to Oromia. Lastly, viewers, Ethiopian embassy in Rome shared a statement a few hours ago about resumption of basic services in Tigray. Since November 2020, banking service has been suspended in Tigray, internet shutdown, telecommunication blackout as well. What is Ethiopian government's position? Will the basic services be restored? Are they going to be restored? What did Ethiopian embassy in Rome say? Firstly, viewers, Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud was elected the president of the country on the 15th of May. He visited the United Arab Emirates on his first official visit abroad a few days ago, and today he departed for Turkey. His advanced diplomatic team arrived in Turkey, I think yesterday, and he is due to arrive in Turkey in coming hours. Turkey and UAE both are key players in the Horn of Africa. Both have close ties with Somalia. Turkey has a military base as well in Somalia. Turkey trained Somalia's military, and new units of Somalia's military are being trained in Turkey. And Turkey provided combat TB2 drones to Somalia's government. So Hassan Sheikh is going to arrive in Turkey in coming hours. We'll update you about any agreements, pacts, if they're signed in Turkey between Turkish and Somalia's leaders. Secondly, Somalia's government has cancelled passports of two individuals, which has led to a social media campaign for and against these two activists. Who are the activists? Why have their passports been cancelled? Their names are firstly Abdi Rizak and secondly Nasima Abwan. You can see their pictures on the screen. Abdi Rizak can be seen and Nasima Abwan. Both are activists, influencers, and Government officials say that the two were holding diplomatic passports, but they are not working in any diplomatic capacity. They are not holding any government position. So why were they issued diplomatic passports? Government officials say that previous government, Farmajo government, issued diplomatic passports to these individuals because they were supporting Farmajo's government. And the issuance of diplomatic passports to ordinary citizens is against Somalia's law. That is why their diplomatic passports have been revoked. Now, question viewers is, if the passports have been revoked, will there be action against those who issued these passports? I think both Abdi Razak and Nasim Afwan are from Somaliland, and they are in Somaliland these days reportedly. Now, if the issuance of passports to Nasima and Abdi Razak was illegal, then action must be taken against those government officials, those politicians who are involved in the issuance of these passports. Second news story is from Ethiopia-Sudan border, where there was a sudden flare-up of tensions between the two countries last week. Sudan accused Ethiopian military of having executed 7 Sudanese soldiers after they had been arrested by Ethiopian army. Ethiopian army denied the allegations. It said that it was not deployed there, where clashes erupted. Clashes were between an Ethiopian militia and Sudanese military. Then Sudan's military launched artillery strikes on some Ethiopian territories. There is relative calm on Ethiopia-Sudan border in recent days. In the last 2 to 3 days, Ethiopia has deployed more troops to the border areas on its side of Ethiopia-Sudan border. Meanwhile, Sudan a few hours ago stopped a UN peacekeepers convoy which was on its way to enter Ethiopia from Sudan. The UN peacekeepers convoy was stopped at Kalabat border crossing. Kalabat border crossing is close to Al-Fashaga, disputed territory between Ethiopia and Sudan, and Kalabat was closed last week when clashes erupted between Sudanese and Ethiopian forces in border areas. UN peacekeepers, they tried to enter Ethiopia through this Kalabat border crossing, but Sudanese army did not allow them to enter Ethiopia. The convoy was traveling towards Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital. It consisted of dozens of trucks and other vehicles. It was carrying some food items too. The convoy was stopped from entering Kalabat and moved towards Addis Ababa, Ethiopian capital. Last year, we know that Sudan requested UN to pull Ethiopian peacekeepers out of Abyei. Abyei is territory between Sudan and South Sudan, and here a UN peacekeeping mission has been in operation for months, and Ethiopian peacekeepers were deployed there. But after Sudan-Ethiopia border tensions last year, and after GERD tensions, GERD dispute, Sudan requested UN that Ethiopian peacekeepers be shifted from Abyei. Juba, South Sudan supported deployment of Ethiopian peacekeepers to Abyei. And some peacekeepers were withdrawn, some Ethiopian peacekeepers, they were withdrawn from Abyei between Sudan, South Sudan, and now Sudan has prevented this UN peacekeeping contingent from entering Ethiopia. So it shows that border situation is still not very peaceful. Tensions are still there. And some say tensions are linked to GERD as well. Ethiopia is about to start third filling of GERD, and before the third filling, these tensions were expected in border areas. Third news story is from London, where Ethiopian diaspora community, Amhara diaspora community has held a protest. The protests have been ongoing for some time since the start of military operation against Amhara Fano militia more than a month ago in the Amhara region. We have seen that Ethiopian diaspora, Amhara diaspora community has been protesting in the US, in the UK, Europe as well. And these protests have intensified after Vellaga massacre, in which hundreds of innocent ethnic Amharas and Oromos, mostly Amharas, were killed. A target of these protests is now PM Abiy viewers. Protesters openly chant slogans, Abiy the killer, Abiy the genocider. Amhara Association of America, which is a diaspora community, is openly demanding the removal of PM Abiy, and the organization in some statements a few days ago demanded that PM Abiy must be removed from power, and he is behind this genocide, alleged genocide of Amharas being committed in Oromia and other parts of Ethiopia. Watch this clip showing Amhara diaspora community's protest in London. Fourthly, viewers, a political party based in the Oromia region of Ethiopia released a statement a few hours ago. Party's name is Oromo Liberation Front, OLF. It is seen as a political wing of Oromo Liberation Army. The party is led by Daud Ibsa, who is under house arrest. Scores of the leaders of the party are in detention in Ethiopian prison. What did this party say? The statement is about new operation launched against Oromo Liberation Army. Last week, Oromia and Amhara regions presidents held a meeting in Bahedar. Did a video on that. Shimalis Abdisa and Yilkal Kefale met in Bahedar, and they decided to launch a joint offensive, joint operations against Shine, Oromo Liberation Army. The meeting was held after Vellaga massacre. After this meeting, Ethiopian National Defense Force convoys and regional force convoys were seen heading towards Oromia. And OLF says that security forces and Ethiopian National Defense Force are arriving in Oromia in large numbers, and it could lead to start of a new phase of killings, civilian killings. That is why it should stop. So OLF is calling for an end to this new operation launched after Vellaga massacre. OLF says that civilians are already dying, and if a new phase of armed escalation intensifies, it could lead to further bloodshed. Problems should be resolved peacefully through dialogue. So OLF is opposing this new operation. OLF and OFC both opposed earlier operation against OLA as well, which was launched more than a month ago. Secondly, Jawar also spoke about deployment of Amhara militias to Oromia. He opposed deployment of Amhara militias, Amhara forces to Oromia. I personally am of this opinion that Amhara forces, Amhara militias should not be deployed to Oromia. It could lead to problems for Amhara people living in Oromia. It could lead to attacks on Amhara people who are living in Oromia. So that is why Amhara region should not be part of this operation. Ethiopian National Defense Force should conduct this operation. And Oromia region has a large number of its special force officials, its regional force members. Oromia region has the largest regional force, special force as well. Oromo regional government should conduct operations on its own if operations are required. And ENDF can support. I personally think that Amhara regional forces, Amhara militias should not be involved in this operation. it could lead to backlash. It could lead to attacks on innocent Amhara civilians living in Oromia. Lastly, viewers, Ethiopian embassy in Rome a few hours ago released a statement about resumption of basic services in Tigray. Since November 2020, basic services in Tigray have been suspended banking service, telecom, and other services like electricity as well in some parts of Tigray. They have been suspended in Tigray for months. And Getachew, 2 days ago, in a press briefing, demanded the resumption of these services. And now it's Tigray government's official position that without the resumption of these basic services, there cannot be talks. So before the start of talks, Tigray government wants resumption of electricity, telecom, banking service in Tigray. What is Ethiopian government's position? Ethiopian embassy in Rome said Ethiopian government is ready to continue essential services when adequate security arrangements are made. So government is confirming that it is willing, it's ready to restore basic services in Tigray. But the condition is when adequate security arrangements will be made. What are these adequate security arrangements? What does government mean by laying out this precondition for restoration of basic services in Tigray? So what does banking service have to do with adequate security arrangements in Tigray? Is it a new condition to prolong the suspension of these basic services in Tigray? Or does Ethiopian government want deployment of some federal departments, federal forces in Tigray at the institutions which are linked to these basic services like banks, like other institutions which are linked to resumption of services? Ethiopian embassy in Rome statement is not clear, but it shows that government is considering resumption of basic services to Tigray. But before that, government wants some guarantees from Tigray. What are the guarantees? That's not clear. It seems that government wants deployment of some of its security staff, federal security staff, to some institutions in Tigray. That is how I understand the statement of Ethiopian embassy in Rome. A few days ago, we heard that Ethio Telecom was put on alert. It was intimated to Ethio Telecom that in coming days there will be resumption of telecom in Tigray. Ethio Telecom should be fully prepared. And it was communicated, I think, around 2 weeks ago to Ethio Telecom to be fully prepared. So preparations are there, but there are some issues which are being resolved.